Dr. Benedict Carpenter van Barthold. I'm the Cultural Director here at Vieunite, and I'm joined today, in person, in Birmingham, from Vieunite HQ, by my co-host, Rhys Goodman.
Hello.
So, Rhys, we're going to talk about Vieunite Pro today.
Yes, we are. So we have the Vieunite. It's great in person. We can have the canvas right here in front of us. So obviously we have the Vieunite digital canvas, which is a home and business product. And really, this podcast is what is the Pro version? Why is it different from the home version? What is the point of it? What do we add to it? So do you want to give maybe just a brief background on the idea?
Yes, sure. So the core concept is going to be familiar, I think, probably to our audience, but it's this digital screen, texture screen, which shows texture-accurate display of art and photography. And that's partnered with our Vieunite art library, which has got thousands of images from all sorts of cultures and periods. What we're showing at the moment is a playlist of 5 of our premium pieces of work. This, for instance, is a painting by Simeon Chardin that's in the National Galleries of Scotland, so a sort of Rococo era painter. This is William Bell Scott, again, National Galleries of Scotland. And that's one of our first partnerships. And it's clear to see that the value of this for the home user is pretty straightforward. Yeah. They get to pick art they want to see and live with it and have a relationship with it. So it really democratises access to culture that might otherwise be quite hard, and it's very personalised. What I've got on this playlist, Rhys, is probably subjecting you to my personal tastes. But I don't know if this work particularly resonates with you or not.
I mean, it's I don't know if it's my taste, but I mean, that's the beauty of art.
It is. But let's say we were in an intergenerational family, right? It's hard to please everybody, isn't it? But with the art library, you can select a playlist of work for your own home that's going to appeal to every demographic.
Yeah, I mean, or you could put your own photos on there, videos.
Yeah.
So it's definitely it makes complete sense in my eyes for the home audience. I want a nice piece of art on my wall. That makes sense. What would a benefit be to a business that wanted art on their wall?
Yeah, so that's a great question. There are different scenarios where businesses use art or screens, and we can really hit both of those things with one product, with the Vieunite Pro. Let's take the first scenario, which would be we could call it internal use. So before we move on to talk about how a business might communicate with a consumer audience.
Yeah.
Art is a really good way of promoting mental health and well-being in a workforce. It provides a form of respite from day-to-day stress. It's something that can provide an escape from the productivity treadmill, if you like. And I also think there's something, it's not just pure escapism, there's also something enriching, maybe even educational, about seeing great pieces of work in the context of a workplace and starting to form a relationship with them.
Yeah.
So that's a simple benefit in itself. There's also really great research that shows that exposure to art and also exposure to art that promotes a connection with nature, which we'll probably talk about in a separate podcast, is really good for your mental health and well-being. And a healthy workforce is ultimately going to be a workforce that wants to go into work and be productive. Yeah. So that's a very clear benefit. But that's not really all that we do. I spent a long time working in a corporate setting before I started in my current role, as my background is as an educator in higher education. And universities are huge and quite bureaucratic environments. At any university, there's, I think, something like 10,000 employees of my last university. It's a very large employer. And there are key messages that you need to put across to a workforce. I mean, they might be around things like EDI, equality, diversity and inclusion, or health and safety, or they might promote some kind of initiative. Now, I don't know about you, Rhys, but when you get that corporate email that says, could you change your behaviour in this way or that way, or could you do this course? I normally feel like I'm a little bit too busy to pay full attention. It's bad, I know. But that's the truth, you know, and we get very good at filtering out messages that get in the way.
Yeah.
So what I'm talking about is attention. How can we get the attention of an employee and get a message across to that person in a way that they're going to be receptive to it? And that's where this canvas comes in. So I want you to picture the scene.
Okay.
You're in a tea room.
Yep.
And it's 11:15. You've been working for a couple of hours. Midweek, you're slightly fried. And you're making a cup of tea and you're looking at the screen because it's your restful place. You're enjoying this painting by Chardin's Vase of Flowers. And then a few seconds later, there's a brief message which tells you about an initiative, or maybe it invites you to a workplace gathering, Friday evening, team building thing, ad hoc. Visit to the pub, maybe. Let's be optimistic. Visit to the pub. And you're probably going to pay attention to that in a way that you don't to your email. It's got your attention in a different sort of way. That's the overt messaging. I might go on to talk about a subtler form of messaging that we can also do with the Vieunite Pro.
So it's kind of like a bulletin board in a tea room where you have all the different messages, but it's just interlaced with things that people want to look at.
Yeah,
before
that's
they
the
see
thing.
The messaging.
You've put your finger on it. It's a bulletin board that people want to look at rather than a bulletin board that people filter out.
So I will say that is a very optimistic way of looking at it. If we were to look at the pessimistic way, could it also be seen as interrupting art with advertising?
Well, I think art has always had a relationship with advertising, actually. There are artists who work directly for marketing companies like Salvador Dali, who made a number of adverts in his life, Andy Warhol, ditto. So I don't think art needs to live in a special space and be protected from commerce. In fact, I think that it's good for artists to have that connection because it's a source of revenue.
Yeah, that's true. You could also argue that people like Banksy, his work is an advertisement for the message that he wants to get across. He's advertising that message.
Yeah.
So whether the message is corporate or personal or societal, I guess it is all art is an advert in a way, in that sense.
Art has messages. Art does carry a message. The work that we're looking at now is all quite old, so it might be hard for us to see how the message that's in, for instance, this is St. Martin and the Beggar by El Greco. It's telling a story from the Bible, and that would have been easily understood to its audience at the time. And I think that to move on to the sort of more subtle way within which this library of images can be used to put a message across. Positive representations of different demographics can have a subtle nudge effect on people's behaviour. So if you want to, have a campaign which is going to promote inclusivity, for instance, we could certainly put together a playlist that would do that. That would probably combine paintings with photographs of a more contemporary nature. But, all of that would sit within the realm of art. Artists like to push the envelope. We often actually are motivated by a desire to improve the world. And we can harness that and put that to serve your kind of, immediate business needs. If that's something you want to talk to us about, I'd love the challenge of working on a playlist like that. So if you're a business and you've got a need like that, get in touch. I started off talking in very vague terms about the art library and the canvas, etc. And all of this art is available for home users or for business users. It's the same library, but it's accessed in different ways. So if you're a regular listener or watcher of our podcast, you'll be very familiar with the app and the way in which that works in the home environment. For the business user, it's different, isn't it, Reece?
Very different. There's a whole different platform, whole different way of using it, a different way of communicating to us.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's because most people who work in a business setting are time poor. So if you're using this at home, it might be part of leisure activity. It's an indulgence. In the business setting, well, there isn't that much time for indulgence. And if you're a business owner, you just want to get the job done, I imagine. So that's where we take the heavy lifting out of curating for you and provide ready-made playlists, which you can access via the Vieunite Pro web portal, which are designed for a comprehensive selection of industry verticals: retail, hospitality, health and well-being, and many, many others. And these playlists are broken down in landscape and portraits. We've got a portrait-orientated canvas here. We've got a very comprehensive library also of landscape images, and in different subscription tiers as well, because we've got different forms of subscription. So I should probably tell you something about the curation team at this point. And perhaps we can go into this in greater detail in a different podcast, but it's not just me. That would be a tyrannical opportunity, wouldn't it, for me to impose my taste on the world, which wouldn't necessarily be for humanity's benefit. But I head a team of 5 people. My background is, first of all, as a practicing artist. I was trained at Chelsea and then the Royal College of Art, and work as a practicing artist. Still, sculpture is my background, actually. I've been in higher education, leading fine art departments for about 25 years and teach art and art history. So I've got a comprehensive understanding of contemporary arts and how that works, and that enables us to talk to really interesting contemporary artists and bring their work into the library. So we'll probably have a look at some recent work in a minute. But it also gives me an ability to lead a team of curators who've got different backgrounds, all of them highly relevant, whether that's in practicing art or as art historians, to source really great material and to put that together in a structured way. Because there's like no end to the number of images that could be in the library. What we're trying to do is to select them for range, authenticity, interest. Every image tells a story. So if you want to engage with our work in an easy, simple, superficial way, that's fine, no judgment, absolutely you can. If you want to get under the lid, find out a little bit more about the artist, a little bit more about the individual paintings and sculptures, then absolutely we've got that information too. So each one of these has got a whole description with it, which you can access through the library and learn. And by putting images together in a playlist, you can start to elaborate meanings. You can start to curate a story or a message.
It's interesting we use the word playlist because when I think of playlists, I think of songs.
Yeah.
And you can have a playlist of songs that you just like,
yeah.
But the better playlists are the ones that have been curated for a mood or a meaning. Like if you just had a breakup, you listen to a sad playlist kind of thing. So in a sense, it kind of feels like your team are like, I don't know, like DJs that pick the set list for the night to take you on a journey.
That's it. And I'll tell you what we're going to do is we're going to do a heartbreak playlist.
A heartbreak playlist.
Why not?
Yeah.
Let's bring that to the library.
I like it.
Let's go from date night, first date to divorce.
That's the series.
Playlist.
Amazing.
Yeah, we'll take you on a journey. I've probably changed a bit too much of my own biography there, but it'll be heartfelt.
Yeah, at the beginning.
It'll be real.
And then it'll get real.
Yeah, absolutely. But joking aside, though, we can absolutely build a narrative.
I guess if you had like a coffee shop that's aesthetic was date night, like early couples, cutesy.
Yeah.
You probably could have a...
Yeah, and so actually, that brings us probably to the next part of this conversation, which is the challenge. So we've got all of these playlists which are, if you like, pret-a-porter, ready to go in the library. Now, you challenged me about, what was it, an hour ago? And said, what did you say to me?
I said that it'd be lovely to give an example for a type of playlist that you'd make.
Yeah.
Would you be able to make one quickly?
Would I be able to make that? And the business you had in mind was a family-run coffee shop. Yeah. So that business could just pick up a playlist from the Vieunite Pro from within our retail section, within our hospitality section. We've got cafes and coffee shops as one of the groups. And there'd be a great playlist there, or there are great playlists there that person could choose from, but they want something more personal. So here we go, you've put it on here. So this imagined client wanted something that had a muted palette. Something that businesses need to be mindful of is how they can maintain and refresh their decor in a very cost-effective way and stay on trend. So this season there's quite a lot of, you might have seen muted colours out there.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, a big one that I keep seeing is muted, like naturey, minimalistic grass and leaves.
Yeah. So I've tried to pick up on that vibe and create a playlist, which would be the starting point for a conversation. So this would be like my initial offering to a coffee shop, a family-run coffee shop, where they wanted something which was sophisticated, not bland. We don't do bland.
Central London.
Yeah,
high class.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe exactly Hoxton, perhaps.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, which has got lots of visual interest, a little bit of depth, and this would be so. The conversation might be along the lines of, I really like the more people-orientated images that you've got in this playlist. Can you build from that point? I really like the more abstract images. I really like the ones which use natural forms. All of these would be choices and decisions that we could then work from to further personalise that playlist.
So a big selling point to the canvas is that I can change it when I want to whatever art I want at my leisure. If I've spent all this time with you crafting a playlist, am I ever going to change it? How where does that conversation go? Can I have multiple playlists?
Oh yes, you can. Absolutely you can. And of course this curation services would be included within your subscription plan. And yeah, being a glutton for punishment, I like being challenged. So I think everyone's a winner in that.
Okay, so just whenever they want, they'll just message in on a new playlist.
And as you can see, so we've got that as a starting point. Muted palette, sophisticated. So I went through the library finding images which fitted that bill. And we've got a real range of work. So this is a drawing by Angelique Navelskaya, who's a recent graduate from the Royal College of Art. She is a Canadian-American artist. This is a photograph by Anthony Webb. So Angelique's a young contemporary artist. Anthony Webb would be in his 50s, where he's still alive, he's sadly dead. This, however, totally different kettle of fish. This is a cyanotype by Anna Atkins, which comes from the first ever book of photonaturalism to be published. So this is from the 1800s. Photography from the 1800s. Photography before the camera. This is cyanotype. This is Francis Bruguière from the 1930s. This macabre photo montage. This is by Carl Blossfeld from the 1920s. This is a cucurbit plant, I believe. This is Francis Bruguière again. It's got a kind of noirish B-movie aesthetic. I love the narrative in this scene. What's going on with the telephone? More Carl Blossfeld. So we've got this, there's a range of work from Victorian photography through to the early camera.
What is your opinion on if I'm in a place and there's a piece of art that catches my eye and I really like it? If this playlist has like 20 photos on it, it's going to take time for me to get back to my original painting. Maybe I just want to stare at that one. But then similarly, in a coffee shop, there might be like 5 or 6 paintings that I would jump around to. Do you think there is an issue with the rotating screen, or is that a benefit for art lovers that they get?
You can control that. So I think that it's very much about the kind of environment that you want to create. We've got this on a, 12-second rotation?
Yeah, I think so.
Which is much faster than I would normally have a screen. I've got 2 of these screens in my office and I have them on a much slower rotation because I like to be able to spend longer with the image. And we've got it on this sort of rather pacey rotation because that's how YouTube works, isn't it? I mean, we like that kind of snappy editing. So in a coffee shop, I think it would be slower than this, and you can control that pace. If you've got multiple screens, then again, if you've got an image which changes, say, once every 2 minutes across, say, 3 or 4 screens, that's a very different kind of vibe again.
For a home, you said before, for a home user, obvious, lovely, pretty picture. Why does a business care about this? Well, obviously, from my perspective, from a business's point of view, I have a space on the wall, I want it to look nice, I just put a painting up there to fill the space and to make the aesthetic of the place look nice. What would a business get from this that they wouldn't get from that?
First of all, going out and buying a painting, this might sound stupid, I don't know, but it's a bit daunting, isn't it?
Yeah.
How would you know which one to buy?
Yeah.
And what's your budget? Those are like really significant considerations. I'm an advocate for art, so I'm not going to discourage anyone from going out and buying an original art object. Please, please do. Artists need to eat too. So go out and buy a painting by all means. But
that had history behind it.
it did. But that's a commitment. Once you've bought a painting, you're living with the painting. And I think that in a domestic environment, that's one thing. In a business environment, it's rather different. If you then want to
change with the times.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
Then how are you going to do that in a cost-effective manner?
And my next question would be, what sets this apart from an everyday screen?
It just feels different, doesn't it? I mean, I had the experience of being in an exhibition with these screens. It was actually in Nottingham Trent University in the School of Art and Design, in the foyer there. As you can imagine, an art school is full of people that look at art, right? You'd think. And we had an exhibition. It was the Vieunite Art Prize a couple of years ago. We had an exhibition there which showed paintings and prints displayed on textura screens. And there were a group of students in the foyer looking at them. And then I heard one of them say, "What, do you see that? It moved!" They thought they were looking at prints. Yeah. And it does feel like you're in the environment of original art.
It's very funny. In this company, everyone quotes people saying that, and it sounds nice and it sounds believable, but I just didn't believe. And me and Frankie went to an art exhibition to meet one of our artists, and we had like 3 or 4 people say that exact comment to us.
Was that the RBSA?
It was.
Yeah. Royal Birmingham Society of Art. And so this photograph by Richard Batty, looks like a print. Looks like a framed print.
What would be the difference for a company to get the pro version as opposed to the home version? Obviously, a big part of it is the curation. But even in the home version, there are some playlists they're not tailored to the company. But is there any other difference that?
Yeah, you can control multiple screens effortlessly, up to 1 million, I think.
Oh, really?
So big coffee shop. But imagine you had a reasonable sized coffee shop might have 2 or 3 rooms. You might have 8 screens. Do you really want to be managing 8 different accounts? Probably not. One of the advantages of Vieunite Pro is you can manage an estate. So in the example we've been talking about, it's a family-run coffee shop. Let's say this family...
spans.
Well, they've got more... I mean, lots of family businesses operate across multiple venues. Another little glimpse into my life, Reese, the person that cuts my hair, is a professional, by the way. Just a couple of doors down from where I live in the village I live in Oxfordshire. It's got 2 salons and a cafe.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Three separate
in different streets?
Premises,
or
different towns.
Oh, wow.
And she could easily manage the playlist across all 3 premises with one click with Vieunite Pro. Now, she's a very small business owner. Imagine now a chain, a franchise. How would you manage pushing out a playlist across multiple hotel rooms or multiple doctor's surgery waiting rooms?
The more I think about it in terms of like Wetherspoons, it makes so much sense in the Wetherspoons where you'd have, I don't know, you could have the style, every Wetherspoons has a little different of an aesthetic, but they are kind of a general aesthetic. Yeah. So it'd be passed along then, but then also they updated their advertising or their menu, whatever they wanted to put on that, it'd be like that. Everyone would have the same one.
Yeah, absolutely. And a very powerful tool then if you want to be able to, push a promotion or actually going back to the example that I've given, try and join up the 3 separate businesses and push custom from one to the other.
It's quite an expense. I know art is expensive anyway, and like you said, the going out there and having to pick the art. Where does this rank in terms of?
Yeah, I'm going to flip that question on its head.
Okay.
So I'm a Barthold consumer. Why should I spend £4 on a coffee in your coffee shop?
Because I can't be bothered to make it at home, or because I'm there.
But I have a choice of places I could go to, and if I could pick one which had a great ambience, where I saw something fresh, and that made me feel like I'm perhaps 10% more cultivated than I really am, then I'm going to go to that venue rather than the one around the corner.
It's like a logo on a shirt. It's a statement.
I think I mean, in a way it is that, but I think it's also more than that. I think that there's a real connection with the culture that is being shown, displayed on the screen.
Yeah.
And to go back to the workplace environment, I think people actually basically like learning.
No, I agree. I also think that where you are when you're doing something is very important. If you're having a really high-class meal but you're in a chippy, it's not going to taste as good as if you were in like a nice place surrounded by nice things.
Yeah, context matters.
Yeah.
Context matters in lots of ways. So there's the built context of the environment where you're enjoying the experience. There's also, of course, the historical and intellectual and cultural context of the art that you're looking at as well. And those two things mesh.
Do you think that second thing plays a big factor in real terms? Because in a museum, as a person that's not very smart, I will look at the art and I'll want to know more, but I'm not smart enough to, and obviously you can read the little plaque. But in a coffee shop, how would they get that? Would there be a way, is there a way that comes out? Or is it just through conversation?
We are working on a new screen, a new canvas where you can swipe up and pull up an information panel. And in perhaps a slightly different environment, maybe a hotel foyer or a hotel room, then that would provide the visitor with ready access to the information that is, information about each individual object. So you might not easily pick up on when this particular image was taken. It could be a still from a film that was made 10 years ago, which happened to be set in the 1930s. Well, actually, it isn't. It's a photograph by Francis Bruguier, who's a fascinating guy. That is a whole story behind his work. So if you're interested in that, or you want to know who this handsome young man is, pull up the panel, you can read about it.
Yeah, that'd be good.
I can't tell you who he is, by the way. I think history does not record, but there's plenty of other interesting facts about that image. This is a contemporary image by an artist called Louisa Huntbatch. So again, want to know about her work. And from her point of view, she, as an artist, wants her name to get out there. She wants to connect with an audience. So this is a double-sided proposition. We work very closely with artists in order to connect them with a wider audience, whether you're Christian Rademeyer, this very talented Swiss photographer who's, again, got a kind of noirish aesthetic, which is why I popped it into this particular playlist, or the estate of Anthony Webb. That they need to connect. It's really important that they do, and connect on their terms, and that's something that Vieunite can facilitate. This art's all about the story. It's all about the story. It's all about the connection. And the more you know about the story, the more valuable the experience is.
100%. Yeah. No, I agree to that. So this is the playlist for the coffee shop.
It's a starting point.
It's the starting point. So if I were to say that I wasn't actually a fan of this, it was too black and white, I wanted a little bit of colour in there.
Yeah.
What would that conversation look like?
Well, I mean, we don't need to role play it. Let's say this is your playlist. You challenge me to produce this.
I have a coffee shop.
You've got a coffee shop.
How exciting.
You think it's too muted?
It's too muted.
Too subdued?
Too black and white. I want a pop of colour, but I still want it to be...
Is that a pop enough?
I think so, yeah. That's as long as it's not all blue.
So you want a muted palette, but not black and white?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So I would take that feedback, which actually we wouldn't get without having shared this playlist in the first place. And I'd go back into the library and I would work from the images that you liked and that you wanted to retain to create another playlist that flows. So this has got, subtle green tone throughout. I might pair that with the cyanotype by Anna Atkins, the piece by Louisa Huntbatch.
Is there much colour theory that goes into this? Do you pick paintings that resonate colour-wise with each other?
Yeah, we paired them. And I do a lot. I think I'll probably pick more images like this by Richard Battier because it's got the, it is kind of muted, but there's colour in there.
How long do they typically take, this back and forth?
Generally not that long, because we haven't had any complaints. So there has been, generally, to and fro. If you were to go into Selfridges and work with a personal shopper to create a wardrobe for you, you're not going to pick the first thing you're offered. This is the same sort of experience, isn't it? It's just with a different...
Interesting. It's very similar.
Yeah, it's just with a different kind of function in mind.
Yeah.
Well, you needed. Actually, do you know what? We could also work with images that you shared with us. So you might have recently redecorated your coffee shop. Show us the photographs. We'll find something that complements that decor. We've got artists in our team who've got a great sense of colour, as well as art historians who are adept at telling the story and uncovering the history. So you put those two things together, and you've got a pretty powerful combination.
A big point that you have mentioned in previous webinars and speeches that I've heard is that what adverts do is they bring people in, they make them feel comfortable, and then they hit them with the message at the end.
Yeah.
One could be said for the Cadbury one that was so famous that I could just say the Cadbury advert and probably people know what it is already with the gorilla.
We're talking the gorilla, aren't we?
Yeah.
It could have been the Caramac bunny.
That doesn't resonate with me.
Right. Different generation.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Would you say that, so with the Cadbury one, in my eyes, the reason that it resonates is because it makes no sense. It does lure me in, but at the end of the day, that advert is for Cadbury. That is Cadbury's advert. Whereas with the advertising that might accompany Starbucks's adverts, aren't Starbucks's adverts, it's separated. Would you say the message still stands that it brings people in, it makes them feel cozy before giving them the message? Or is there a disconnect there?
So the way in which I think art and advertising work together is you've mentioned an iconic advert, the Phil Collins gorilla moment that, it lives rent-free in all of our minds, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah.
It's on loop.
Absolutely.
It's on right now.
And I can think of other comparisons. So for me, Guinness adverts have for a long time been brilliant, actually. Going back to the ones which had Rutger Hauer, who was the android in a Blade Runner that was being hunted by Harrison Ford in that iconic film. So incredible on-screen charisma, brilliantly shot. Some of them, I believe, were directed by Ridley Scott, and they've got that kind of combination of an artistic vision and a message. They use simple storytelling, quite complex visual imagery, which leans heavily on avant-garde filmmaking.
Yeah.
And the way in which that works is it invites a playful mindset, a receptive mindset in the viewer of the advert. Now, if you imagine the kind of mindset you've got when you're sitting in front of your computer and you're bashing through your emails and your HR department sends you something about some overdue training, you are not in that receptive place, probably.
No.
Right? You're in a kind of like, I've got other stuff to get on with. It's more important. You might even be slightly sceptical. And that's similar, I think, quite often to the sort of, the way in which conventional advertising is received. Oh, someone's trying to pitch me something, barriers come up, it's protective. Successful advertising uses art and culture to create a receptive, open mindset, a mindset of wonder, and that creates a kind of approach, that can be made. It creates common ground. Because as soon as you're in trying to figure something out visually, as soon as you're in that kind of like playful artistic space, you're investing. By the time you're investing, you're listening, you're paying attention. If something then gets whispered to you, it doesn't have to be rammed down your throat. If something gets whispered to you, you might hear it. It might nudge your behaviour. And that's how great adverts work.
Yeah, no, I agree. But would you say that if it was rammed down your throat, would that take you out of it? Does it have to be whispered?
I think horses for courses, really. It depends what the message is. And if that's something you needed help workshopping, then again, we could assist with that. I think it depends very much on the kind of message you want to put across.
Because I can see it in a pessimistic sense of seeing all this lovely art and then being abruptly interrupted by corporate, like a white box text.
Yeah.
Corporate. But if I was looking at art from the Renaissance and then there was an advert that looked like art from the Renaissance, but it had the message in it.
Yeah.
that would firstly shock me at the creativity, but then also like I would definitely read that.
Yeah.
Is that something that happens in these conversations with companies?
Yes, so we have created playlists for clients which have been branded around the cultural, a cross between sort of branding of the company and the palette of the cultural assets. We worked on something recently with Antwerp's Images for the charity crisis, which was a beautiful fit because homelessness was a cause that he supported. So we'll try and find those overlaps as well. And that provides a way of generating human interest around it and authenticity.
Yeah.
I mean, none of this is contrived. This is something that he really felt. So it's about finding the right artist to work with, the right image by the right artist for the right message.
Yeah, no, definitely. Okay, well that is amazing. Thank you for answering all of my questions.
You're welcome.
Is there, where can people find you if they have any questions about the canvas?
Easily reached via the Vieunite website.
I'll put links in the description as well.
Perfect. Yeah, and if a message is sent to the company, I think my email address is in the website, but it'll certainly find its way to me. And I'll love a conversation.
Perfect. So I guess we'll put that in a challenge maybe. In the comments, write your most contrived playlist idea that you can think of. I don't know how we would show it. Maybe we'll put it on our stories. We'll put the comment and then like our selection.
Bring it on.
All right, lovely. Well, until next time.
Yeah, cheers. Thanks very much, everybody. Stay tuned.